Are you also there?
Yeah.
Very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session of Ruburu. Today we have none other than CA Pankaj Poddarji. Pankaj ji is CEO of Cosmo Films Limited since 2011. A chartered accountant who rose to a leadership level, and Cosmo Films Limited, as we all know, is the listed company with somewhere around 2,000 crore plus turnover. And Pankaj ji, in his capacity as CEO, has won Indian CEO of the Year award, Young Businesses Leadership Award, and lot many awards. So the purpose of this session is, Pankaj Bhai, a very warm welcome from Foundation of Tax and Accounting Professionals. Uh, you would be happy to know that FTAP is a registered trust which is working since 2005 in disseminating knowledge to various tax and accounting professionals. And recently, last week only, we started the Ruburu series, wherein the idea is to, other to share a word of wisdom with our fellow tax and accounting professionals, students, and members, which is not on technical subject, but which relates to life of various tax and accounting professionals who have reached to a top. So this time it's you. How are you feeling? You need not talk on the technical stuff. I know you got one award on the HR Young CEO with HR Orientation Award. So I think our discussion would going to be interesting today. Pankaj ji, over to you.
So thank you to the forum and thank you Gaurav and Deepak. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure all of you must be enjoying the moment. We never thought that we'll have summer vacation once we become adults, but you can never defeat the nature. So I hope you are spending a lot of quality time with your family. And at the same time, you must be ensuring that you learn each day, which is very important. And definitely one of the live proof of that is that you are here in this session trying to learn. So it's a good beginning. I have, given speeches all over the world, internationally, domestically, over various forums. But I can tell you this is quite a proud moment for me, speaking to my fellow colleagues of the same profession, which has brought me where I am today. I can tell you CA is definitely one course which gives you a lot of business learnings, financial acumen. And if you continuously apply what you learn, you can reach to any height. So, it's definitely one of the very good courses one can look to do and get the financial acumen, become an analyst, understand what is there on the papers, what's going on in the real life. So it teaches you the various aspects of running the business. I will first share my first learning of my life. I believe each one of us learn from their mothers, and I am no different to that. My first lesson, or let's say something which I never forget, is my mother always used to tell me, Pankaj, at least give a try. There were tasks which in the childhood you would avoid to do. And my mother always used to say, Pankaj, at least give one try. Anyways, the thing is not happening. Maybe you give a try and maybe you are able to succeed. And I'll give you a very funny incident, from when I must be in second class or third class. I went to buy some vegetables from a shopkeeper who used to be very expensive, very good vegetables he used to sell. And his clear policy was never return policy. He will never take the return. I came back home and mother said that, I had asked you something else, you got something else. So please go and maybe exchange it and return it. And I said, Mama, he will not return it. And to my surprise, I could achieve the result. And so that's the first inspiration in my life that, you should always make at least one try. I don't know if any of you have heard from the famous experience of, the burger chain. There was this burger chain, there was this gentleman who made a burger and he thought that, and he made some chicken fries. And he thought that, it is something very great he has done. And he thought that it is going to make a revolution. He went to the first restaurant, and the restaurant guy said, sorry, this is not something that I liked, and I can't sell it. He went to the second restaurant. He got the same experience. Third restaurant, fourth restaurant. He made 100th attempt. Can you believe that? He made 100th attempt. He went to a restaurant which was under the highway flyover, and he could sell his stuff that he got with him. So he said that I'll not take money unless you are able to sell it. That chain today is KFC, right? So those are the learnings that you get from some of these motivational stories. Now I'll take you back to my school life. Until 5th standard, I used to be the class topper. I had distant memories. I had good memories from those days. And, in 6th standard, all the top 9 students were shifted to another special class, so-called special class, where all the best students of different classes were there. And immediately I became an average student in the so-called best class. There, at that time, I think one of my early learnings was that have small goals with big ambitions. And every time in every exam, I used to say that I need to achieve better rank from someone who's maybe 3 ranks higher. So from an average rank, I every time started to get better. And within next couple of years, I started coming in top 7th of the best section in the school.
Pankaj bhai, I would like to interrupt you.
Yeah.
It seems, you are very goal-oriented since your childhood. I am feeling कि आप एक बार गए और आपने एक बार में वेजिटेबल रिटर्न करा दी, 5-6 बार में जाते तो आप शायद एक बहुत बड़ी कंपनी खोल लेते. So
yeah, that's on a lighter note. I think that is not with me. It is possible with any of you, each one of you.
आपका voice crack कर रहा है. Sorry.
I'm saying this is very rightly said.
Pankaj ji, voice थोड़ा crack कर रहा है. Can you repeat, Pankaj ji? Voice crack कर रहा है.
Yeah, I'm saying it is true for each one of us.
But I can hear you, Pankaj. Gaurav, I believe that must be at your end. I can hear Pankaj correctly.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is it is true for each one of us. If we all go on making attempts, and even if we fail once or twice, important is not to give up. And I can tell you, anybody can succeed in business or any other personal ambition that person has, whether it is learning music or learning sport. So it is no special thing with Pankaj. It is with anybody. And I think if you keep it up, that if you are ready to try again, success will certainly come to you.
Yes. So ready to try is very important thing. We should not lose heart if we lose once. We need to keep on trying till we achieve a success. And in order to achieve a success, a very rightly mentioned, by Pankaj ji, is that have small goals. Instead of eyeing for a sun at the starting, we should start eyeing for, level 1, level 2, level 3. And that's how we would be able to achieve at the top floor of the organization.
It is equally said in cricket, plan for the next session. Don't, in a test match, they always say, don't play for the win, play for the next session. So plan it for each session, and then results are bound to come. So have a bigger goal, a bigger ambition, but, have smaller goals. And if you keep achieving your smaller goals, you can achieve what you really want to do that.
Yes, you may continue, Pankaj.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of other learnings that I had from my school days. I remember in 10th standard, where till pre-boards, I was still in top 6, top 7 students, and board one day, it came in virtually my night dream that why can't I be the topper? And I, really went for it. I studied day and night, but much more important was I started enjoying it. And I think the other learning of my life is that if you enjoy what you do, then success is bound to come. And, when the result came, I was second, though it was kind of I was extremely happy and to some extent unbelievable that I could really do it. But what I can say is that if you really enjoy, you have to enjoy actually speaking. If you are into something, don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do what you really love to do it. And I think during my 10th standards, during the board exams, I really started loving my studies. I loved every chapter that I was learning in my science, in my math, especially biology used to be very difficult for me. And when I did my first time, I remember it was Lakhmeer Singh or whatever was the name of the author. First time when I did, it was just a kind of a boring reading for me, trying to learn some things. By the time I did the second time and third time, I really got into so much of it that some of the things I still remember. Once a while when I try and teach my kids, I still cherish those learnings that I had in those days. So really, I think that's one of the other learnings I would like to share, that please enjoy what you do, otherwise don't do it. Maybe that's not the thing made for you.
Okay.
Then take my journey to my college days. The first learning I had in my college was the benefits of smart dressing. I was a very average dresser, very simple dresser, and everyone around me in SRCC, used to dress very smartly. And I realized that if you have to really succeed, it's not just the thinking part, the brain part, but you also need to dress up as per the occasion. And, those were the other things. In the second year, I requested one of my friends to stand up for the elections. And I think there I built up my confidence, because in those days, my friend said that, okay, you're asking me to stand, I'll do that, but I'm not so good in speaking to the whole class. And here you are saying speaking in front of SRCC students. So I think the other thing was I used to prepare a little bit, though I still don't do it as much as I should do. But I can tell you that before any important event, if you make any preparation, your confidence level will be far more, and you can really achieve what you want to achieve. So that was again very amazing learning for me. This learning carried on even when I first time went for a TV interview. I did not prepare anything. I just wanted to speak whatever comes to, because I wasn't sure what questions TV person will ask me on CNBC. And I could really see that the first time I did not give the interview that, I would have loved to. I virtually tried answering anything and everything which the host was asking me. And one of the lessons that I learned is that it is not important when you're speaking on TV to try and answer anything and everything which the host asks you. It's important to give the message that you want to give. So that was another very good learning, that you need to find ways and mold ways, and you have to do some thinking before that this is what you want to speak. So irrespective of what questions they want to ask, you may start from that and take it to the direction that you really want to take that. And, it was those days in college where a little bit of preparation helped me to speak in front of various classes in SRCC. That was another very nice learning.
Two questions, Pankaj.
Yeah.
First, when you started preparing to speak, so who stood for election, you or your friend?
Yeah, so he used to stand and I used to speak for him.
That's cool.
Eventually he lost the elections because maybe he did not speak, but it was not such a bad loss for us, but he still lost. Maybe the students didn't like the way that he is not speaking. Most of the speaking is done by Pankaj.
So probably आपको खड़े हो जाना चाहिए था तब election.
I did that in the first year and failed myself.
Okay. So the second question is, you talked about importance of dressing. But आजकल you will see a lot of IT companies, people over there. Even if I talk about the Google, they wear simply jeans or t-shirt.
Yeah.
So how important is dressing when it comes to our profession? Because in IT, if I talk about my clients also, if you talk about someone who is a head of a IT company, so he may be dressed well, but the team overall who are working there, mostly they are young guys. They are not, you will not find them in pant or shirts. They would be wearing jeans or t-shirts. But when you see a CA firm, any good consulting firm or an average consulting firm, you will find, people in shirt or trouser. So why this shirt or trouser or a good dressing is important in our profession vis-a-vis other profession? Any
Yeah,
thought on this?
there are two things for it. One is that dressing has to be there as per the occasion, right? And let's say if somebody is going for an interview, that is a different occasion. A consultant who has to, get a business which is not so easy, because you are trying to help someone who knows his business maybe better than what you do initially. And therefore, I would say that one is it is dependent on the occasion, and second is it is also dependent on the business practice. Obviously, things are changing. In India, you still see even the IT industry, people are in t-shirt and trousers or jeans. I can tell you my experience when I once went to one of the customers, which was a medium scale. The owner was actually sitting in a half trouser. I mean, he was sitting in a knicker basically. So, one is obviously it is also dependent on the practices followed, the ethics, the values, or let's say the practices in that particular area or the profession. But I think dressing smart does not mean, the tie and the shirt. Dressing smart means dressing smart for the occasion. If you're going to a party, dress smart. If you're going to let's say, meeting a friend, you have to dress accordingly. But it's very critical that every time you dress smartly, because you never know who is going to see you when and what impact it can make in your life. So whenever you're out of home, it's very critical that you dress smartly as per the occasion. And as the basic, these days, in fact, if you see marriage cards, there they specify that what dress you are supposed to wear. Take care of those things.
So the participants, I think, the important point which Pankaj Bhai is trying to make is that you do not only communicate with your words, you actually communicate with your dress also. So when we smart, as per the occasion, we tell everyone that yes, we are ready to get merged with the environment. So everywhere, wearing tie and shirt does not make a sense.
So I have a follow-up question on this.
Yeah, Deepak Bhai.
Yeah, let's say some IT company has approached me as a consultant, and I have to reach there, right? And frankly speaking, I really don't know what are their dress code. Are they into ties or formals, or are they into informals? So how should I approach them? Should I go in formals or should I go in informals, assuming that it's a IT company and they must be wearing only t-shirts and jeans?
So there are two things to it, Deepak. First is you should always play safe when you are going for the first time. And by being safe, it means that you should dress as formally as possible. Maybe somebody in the company is going to tell you that next time you can come in casual and then you can wear casual. And second thing is, normally speaking, the dress code for a consultant is a formal dress, because you guys need to be smart and grab the business. So my recommendation is that at least for the first time, you should be formal. And next time, when I'm sure somebody is going to say that, we are an IT company, and next time you can come in a jeans. Maybe you can go in a jeans.
So I can share one anecdote on here. You see, we were in some meeting, and all of our staff and myself was in proper formal wearing tie. So when I entered conference room, there were around 20 people sitting there, and no one was wearing tie. So it was like an odd situation. So what I had to do that I had to remove my tie and try to gel with the crowd. So that was my approach.
It is always said it is better to be overdressed than underdressed. So with this, I think Pankaj, we can move ahead on your other interesting life experiences.
Yeah. Then I subsequently joined SR Botley and Company. I'm sure many of you would have heard this name. It's a member firm of Ernst & Young. And it was amazing learning for me. I think the first thing that I learned there was that no work is small. I could share my experience. In my early days, we used to photocopy ourselves. We used to make audit file for somebody else who has done the audit. We were given the directory to say that, look, here is the calculator and please calculate the sum of all the telephone numbers, which was really written small. So I think the first experience we had was that please do not consider any work. And I think in this shutdown, I believe some of us are even cleaning the house. So that learning goes from there. You should never, because once you start respecting work, you will also start respecting others. And I think in today's life, it's very important to respect what a policeman is doing for you, what a cleaner is doing for you, what a guard is doing for you. And I can tell you, if you can give respect to these people, your respect will tremendously go up in front of everyone. So I think that was another very interesting learning that we had in the initial days. There was another very critical, interesting experience, which was in the very beginning. I was asked to go to one of the clients. The name of the client I can share, it was Munjal Showa. So I asked we used to have clerks those days, and I asked that, what is the address? He says it's in Gurgaon. And believe you me, in those days, Gurgaon was not so popular. So I said, which Gurgaon? Where Gurgaon? And he said, you do not know Gurgaon? I said, no, sorry, I do not know Gurgaon. It's way back in 95. And I said, how to go? He said, you get up you reach bus stop at 5 a.m. and take a bus. And I'm sure you asked there how to reach. So I said, what is the address? He said, address I'm not able to find. So anybody will tell you what is Munjal Showa. And so the interesting part was I took a DTC bus. It dropped me at Dhaula Kuan. I asked a lot of people how to take the next bus. Now, when I was in bus, I would have asked at least 20 people, what is Munjal Showa? I ended up reaching Gurgaon bus stop finally. I was lucky enough, somebody told me how to reach, Munjal Showa, because eventually somebody told me that you should not say it as Munjal Showa, you should say it is the Shocker Wali company. So I think that was the other thing that, which I eventually also learned in Reckitt Benckiser.
Pankaj, I would say your clients still remember you. Just before you mentioned about Munjal Showa, Munjal Showa is also my client in transfer pricing. So I shared about today's session, so I got a message from Pankaj Gupta ji. You remember Pankaj Gupta ji?
Yeah, very well, very well.
So he just texted me, that Pankaj, he was referring to you, that you did the audit of Munjal Showa. And then just after 1 minute, you started discussing about Munjal Showa. So world is small. And when you do good, your client still remembers you. Huh? So you did it in articleship, and now it is almost some 24 or 25 years. And if he's still remembering you, probably you did either a very fantastic audit or,
I'll share you another experience of Munjal Showa. Let me finish this one.
Pankaj, I will also request you to share your South Africa experience.
Yeah, I'll come to that. So, so what I really learned is that one is it got a lot of confidence that I can reach anywhere, because after that, in one of the other jobs, I traveled anywhere. And I can tell you guys, at times I used to even miss the foreign currency. The only thing I used to carry was my credit card and mobile phone. And I used to say, I can travel anywhere and everywhere in the world if I have these two things. And I remember once I was traveling to Nigeria, my boss specifically asked me, Pankaj, you must carry dollars, otherwise you'll be lost in Nigeria. So that was another very interesting experience. I can tell you now that you mentioned about Munjal Showa, there was another beautiful experience. So first year when I went, this company was already there in existence for many years, and I could help find them some mistake that they were doing in royalty calculation. And with the new calculation that I did for them, they saved 5 lakh rupees each year on royalty. And in those days, 5 lakhs was a big sum. I mean, today we say 5 lakhs is nothing. Those days it was still reasonably big, even for a company like Munjal Showa, which had a turnover of, I think, 250 crores in those days. Today it must be more than 5,000 crore company.
Yeah.
So it went to the chairman. Chairman appreciated that, EY or SR Bartleby could make that difference for them. Next year, when I went there again, the finance manager told Pankaj, last year, because of you, I was beaten up by a company that I could not find. I have done a lot of checking on royalty. I personally challenge you if you can find mistake again in royalty. And he said, Pankaj, I'll take you to a personal beer if you can find another mistake. And the good part was, again, we did a fresh way of calculation. We found that, purchase can be treated in a certain different way. And they again started saving 6-7 lakhs more, which ideally I should have captured in the first year itself, though that is not part of the audit. But one thing we always used to do as SR Botley was to help clients save money. One of the objectives was obviously to give the true and fair statement. But the other objective we always used to carry is that at least 10 times of the fees we can give back to the client. Because if we have not done that, client would never realize the value coming from EY. And perhaps they will always be skeptical of paying so much fees to the company. So that was another objective that we used to carry. And I can tell you, maybe almost all of them, audits that I did, that was one single agenda that I always used to keep in the back of my mind, that we must give back more than what we take. And I still carry this principle as, though I virtually work like an entrepreneur, but I can tell you, I still say that, whatever is my salary, I need to give at least 10 times back to the company every year. I need to justify my worth to the company. And if each one of us decides to deliver at least 10 times, I can tell you your value will always remain high in the market. I'll share you another experience. We had another client which was in love with signing balance sheet early. Those were the days when computer had just started to come in life, very basic computers way back in 98. And, we had to finish the work by 6th or 7th. Believe you me, we had many sleepless nights, but on 6th night, we could finish everything. 7th April, partner came, did the review. 8th, we had the board meeting, and we could actually finalize the accounts on 8th. So that was another very good learning, that there is no second to the hard work. We also learned about the discipline part very nicely in the SR Bartley Boy. In those days, the attendance used to be manual. The office used to open at 9 a.m. sharp. And, even if we are a minute late, I'll tell you what options we had after coming late to the office. But if we are late to the office, say by 8:55, many of us used to go by 5 floors by stairs rather than taking a lift to ensure that we maintain the discipline. At the once the 9 a.m. is over, we had 3 options. The register used to go to the partner's room. If you decide to go in the partner room, sign the register, he will give you a lecture of his life to ensure that next time you're not late. If anyways you decide not to give attendance and still work in the office, he will know that you have come today without attendance. He will give you a lecture in front of everyone. And the third choice was to go back home, and next day you will have, the best of the times from the partner. So those were again some funny days for us, some learning days for us. And that really taught us the importance of discipline, that we must stick to the time, that we have given to others. We must respect others' time. And I think I also learned this again when EY sent me to UK. I can tell you, people used to take time a week before. And, even if you are 1 minute late, the other person will tell me, sorry, you are late now, I cannot do the meeting. So that was planning people used to do in UK. And, that really made us learn the importance of calendars, respecting others' time, making sure that, you do everything to ensure that you are on time. I'll share you another interesting experience with another client, which was by far the largest client for EY or SR Bartley in those days. We had to finalize the tax return. 2 days before, we had a huge difference in the fixed asset register because this company had done a lot of interplant transfers of fixed asset. 2 days before, client, the partner said, Pankaj, this is the biggest client. It's very difficult to qualify it. You have to help reconcile it. The next morning he came, we were working for more than 24 hours in office. I did not even get up for eating my food. It came on my table. Other than the washroom, I did not get up. The next morning, the difference came to 18 crores. He said, Pankaj, well done. Can you bring it down further? Next morning, again, he came and I said, boss, the difference is now, I think some 8 or 9 crores. He said, Pankaj, now I'm still in a position to sign the balance sheet. I said, hold on. I will try for more till the time you give me time. By the time he signed, we were left with a 2 crore difference. It was a very, very large account. So 2 crore looked big. But for that client, 2 crore was not large. And finally, the partner signed, giving that number that 2 crore is the final difference. So 60 hours, I was sitting on my table along with one of my colleagues to try and match those differences for one of the clients. And I think that was, again, we used to love it. And if you love your work, I think you can achieve anything. And the second beautiful part is that you really need to get into it. There's no second to the hard work. Eventually you need to do your hard work to achieve what you want to achieve.
60 hours is a good amount of time. It's among us. So guys, those who are listening, especially articles or students, see, you need to understand that you need to give time to the assignments. You need to give time to the firm. And when you go to coachings or whenever you have coaching in your mind and you are working, you may not be able to give your dedicated hours to the engagements or to the assignments on which you're working, because these assignments are actually, you learn a lot from the practical than from going to the tuitions. So a piece of advice, coming from Pankaj ji on this, I will say is, take your assignments seriously. I will not say sit for 60 hours, but if required, then you should give your best to the assignments. Yes, Pankaj.
Yeah, I can tell you, if someone asked me to sit for 60 hours today, maybe I cannot sit it. But, those were the days when I was really young, full of energy. And, that passion was there to make sure that difference does not remain. And we could really achieve it. And, eventually I got the results also, later on with the promotions that I got, but that's a different story.
Pankaj, even if not 60 hours, what are your average working hours today?
Now I think life has become cooler for me, Deepak. So maybe not more than 11 hours. But for many years in my life, you know it well that I've really given many, many hours to the work.
So 11 hours is also, 50% of your time is going to work. 8 hours you need for sleep, and probably a traveling time 1 or 2 hour, or commuting time 1 or 2 hour, which means, you are not able to give time to your family. Is it so, Pankaj?
So my travel time, fortunately, is not much. And therefore, I'm still able to balance it well.
Okay.
So I've been more lucky there.
But only very recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, now we are moving into your, your organization, your journey to CEO. So if you can share some words of wisdom from it.
Gaurav, there are 1 or 2 questions also. Should we take it up right now or after the?
Yeah, we can take if it pertains to the,
okay.
part of the.
There is one Facebook from YouTube, one of our member, Rahul Trivedi. He's asking this question. Sir, please tell us what are the most important things or habits we should develop and adopt in our daily routines?
So I think there are multiple of them. First is respect others. Most important for success is attitude, which I think everyone everywhere, that you should always be ready to take challenges. You should always be positive about what you do. That is definitely very, very critical. Hard work. Yes, I have seen virtually most of the successful people. I won't call myself that big a success, but you have very big examples. And people who really go up the ladder, I could see them from them that, almost all of them, whether you talk about Bill Gates, whether you talk about Indra Nooyi, all the great leaders, whether you talk about Obama, Narendra Modi, all these people have really worked very hard. The other thing is you need to learn the art of, keeping your presence felt, your presence of mind, that is again very critical, crucial. There are occasions where people will ask you tough questions. If you can give those 2 minutes, 2 seconds, don't try and answer immediately. Give your mind thinking time to react to that question. And if you can give that thinking time and come back quickly to the answer, at times, you can give such a wonderful answer that it can change your fortunes. So I think presence of mind in anything and everything that you do is also very critical, where you give thinking time to yourself. In any case, I will suggest that each one of you must have some thinking time, irrespective of how tough is your job. More than execution, planning and thinking is extremely important. Like I can tell you today, we are into essential commodity of packaging. Every day I'm thinking that what can come 3 months from now, what can come 6 months from now, what do we need to plan today to make sure that, we are ready for that eventuality later on. So I think that is another very essential thing, that you must spend critical time of your everyday life into thinking, planning about yourself, planning about your work, planning about even your fitness. So that is another. So I can talk about multiple of them, but if you really see, I would say attitude, respect others, thinking time, and hard work. I think these are 4 very important mantras of success.
Okay.
Now, I'll take you to my next company, where I was assigned internal auditor. I traveled, initially I was the internal auditor for 3 countries. I could manage to find certain issues which were happening for multiple years, could never be found earlier. That made me internal auditor for almost 23 countries internally for that company. But the most critical thing that I learned was negotiation skill. My boss was from UK. For us, the client was our internal finance director for that country, the managing director and the finance director. And this company had such strong internal controls and audits. We used to rate red, yellow, green. And if somebody's in red, that means the managing director and finance director cannot work anymore, right? So there was very strong negotiation on what we used to give as a part of the audit report. People were really worried in terms of what audit report would come. So one of the things that my boss used to tell me, Pankaj, you should always, as a part of negotiation, have, let's say if you have 7 points for negotiation or discussion, you should always keep the easier ones that you're ready to give up first. You need to create a positive environment with the other person. So let's say if you have 7 points and 3 of them, even if you lose, you are fine with it. Always discuss them first. Let the other party think that they are winning, and then you bring the point on which you are not ready to compromise. Bring those, and therefore 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times, you'll be able to sail through those points, making the other party agree to what. So I think that was very critical negotiation skill that I learned, and I still carry through in my life. I'll take you to my next organization, which was automotive company again. The second one after EY was FMCG. Third company was automotive. And my first assignment was, here I was not an internal auditor. My first job was internal control manager. I'll take you to my CEO journey soon, guys, another 5 minutes because time is running. But here I had to correct what the internal auditors had found gaps. There were so many of them, and there were a lot of corrections we did. We did customer reconciliations, we did inventory physicals, we did internal controls on inventory, fixed assets physical, non-returnable gate pass reconciliation. That gave me a very solid learning of internal controls in the company. So that was the first time that from an auditor's seat, I was on the other side, where I was trying to help the company rectify those gaps in the internal controls. And that was a great learning. I later on became CFO in this company. The first challenge was day one, I became CFO, and there were check bouncing cases. The previous CFO didn't tell me that, the cash flow was so bad. And second day onwards, we had to really plan for the cash flow. The company was into $10 million. That particular division was $10 million losses. And the other assignment we were given is to shut down the plant. And we could prove the management that if you shut down the plant, it's better to run it. And maybe we tried to turn it around. And that was again a very beautiful journey. The first thing we did was to make a 5-year P&L. We literally went into details why a profitable company went into losses. And we realized so many things. I think one of the biggest learning was that there were raw material increases which was never recovered from customers. There were certain standard costs set for certain things while the actual wastages were much higher. We were doing a lot of single source purchasing, so there was not enough negotiations. Suppliers in the past had taken a lot of benefits. So there was a lot of learnings, during that period. And within 2 years, that division, which was making $10 million losses, got converted to $2 million profit. I was later on given the assignment to manage 2 more divisions and eventually that company's finance head, CFO. And there were a lot of learnings in the turnaround, one after the other, we could turn around all the divisions. And I would say that every division, we had the same learning. Right pricing with the customer, making sure that you win the business, you take the right assumptions. One of the assumptions that in those days, the company or the previous finance used to take is that the overheads would remain same as a percentage to sale. Now, again, a very basic, the percentage overheads would come down once the business goes up. We simply changed that assumption. We started winning businesses. The other things were important was that ensure that your standards are being maintained. Every year you are challenging yourself to reduce cost. Never give up. Never think that you have reached optimum. I can tell you I've been working in Cosmo for now almost 10 years. Even after 10 years, I can't still say that I have reached optimum. Just the royalty example that I gave you from Munjal Showa, where when we did the same agreement again, we found that there was an opportunity to save cost. Same thing I can tell you in real life. There is never an optimum, and the way things are getting cheaper, faster, more economical, more value for money. I remember the days when a car was sold for 2 lakh rupees with virtually no features. Today, a car, similar type of car sells for 3 lakh or 2.5 lakh with far more features. Now, how it became possible? It became possible because of continuous learning, continuous evaluation. What are the opportunities possible? Continuously promoting your vendors to do better. Continuously motivating your employees to do better. Continuously evaluating more opportunities. So one side, you need to make sure that you are rightly charging your customers. It's a very competitive world, but the right pricing and the price discovery is very important in today's life. And then, ensuring that you're always optimizing cost, always optimizing efficiencies. I also had some very good learnings from sales tax exemption. In this company, we had policy to not to give any, black money to or let's say the under the table money. And, that was again a great learning that we still carry in my life. The local government officer was so against because of this reason. And we still managed, we were into a very difficult area and we still managed that. Important was to make sure that your books are true. You always tell them that, see, you do not do this. You make them believe it. The moment you tell them that you do it, eventually you'll have to do it. So you have to create that aura that you don't do it. That was another very nice learning that, I carry from those days. Now I'll take you to my Cosmo journey, where I became CEO eventually. So I started here again as a CFO. And initially the assignments were managing treasury, getting loans, internal controls, getting the audits done. Very nice experiences. Very quickly, there was no CEO in the company at that time. The promoter himself was acting as a CEO. And it was I was virtually asked to start taking executive decisions. And so many decisions that we took, which eventually helped, I sat with the customer negotiations. We could get better price because again, the price discovery is very important. And that is again a technique one has to learn, that, I don't know if you have heard about spin selling. The spin selling or the customer negotiation or the price discovery part is more about asking questions. So if you're sitting in a customer a client negotiation or whatever, you need to prepare. First is prepare yourself well for that meeting. But even before you start saying that what you can provide them, it is important what you need to identify is what they really need from you. And same happens in the real life business. There's a book also on spin selling. I recommend each one of you to read that book if you are interested in selling techniques. Basically, breaks down this sales process into 4 parts. SPINN, which is first starting from understanding customer, understanding his problem areas, and then coming to the value proposition that you can bring to the table based on the problems that, so highlighting that this is the problem, making customer understand that how the big problem is for the customer, and then eventually give you a value proposition. So, I started as a CFO, but I had a lot of executive decisions. We got success. We could start improving the profitability in the company. And I think within first year itself, I became the president for Indian operations. And then within 2 years, I was able to move to the global role where I became the global CEO for the company. In Cosmo, again, in this journey, there were a lot of things that, we did. But I think the one very important learning that I would like to share with each one of you is that if you have to drive a bus, assume that you are running a company just like if you are driving the bus, make sure that you have the right passengers, which effectively means that the team that you carry is the best team that you should have. If you want to create a successful organization, you need to have the right people with you. And if you have the right people with you, you can achieve any height. I will very well say this for the CA practice. I see so many chartered accountants who try and run their firms with very basic infrastructure, with very limited infrastructure. And I could see that their potential is much more, but they are eventually not able to do as well in life for the simple reason that they could never increase their infrastructure. I know on day one it is not possible. But in real life, you need to quickly increase your expenditure. And one of the learnings that I had from one of the very nice management gurus, he said you should never stop hiring. I think in these COVID days, again, this is going to be very critical. There are companies who are going to fire people, and then there will be companies who are going to hire people. So very critical is that you should always try and keep bringing talent in the organization. At the end of the day, success for any organization is about the talent it has. And one of the things that I learned in Cosmo is that you need to have a very, very strong research and development. I think India used to lack in this, but a lot of companies in India have realized the importance of a very strong R&D. And I think I wish if in chartered accountancy course, we used to have some science element, and in science courses, we have some financial element. That always make us more complete in our learnings. So guys, these were some of the learnings in my life. I think in Cosmo, there were plenty of them in terms of has completely changed from a CFO role to a CEO role. It is about managing investor relations. It is about managing the media. It is about managing people. It is about strategic thinking. It is about the vision and mission of the organization, let people understand the purpose of your organization, ensuring that people are there with you together. It's very important that you take your team together. So there are a lot of different learnings. I can talk about them for hours and hours, and I now leave the house open for any questions that you guys want to ask me.
Okay, thanks Pankaj for such a wonderful insight. I have one question. How important is it for a chartered accountant to go for a management degree if he wishes to become a CEO? So CA plus IIMs or MBA from some good institute, is it an essential feature to become a CEO, or it just add skill set? What do you feel?
See, the most important skill set is your interest in the business, whether you love to do it. As I said earlier, what you love to do, and if you do the same thing, then you will achieve it. So that is to me the most important thing. But yes, education always helps. Just like the chartered accountancy course helps, there are a lot of things which are missing in a chartered accountancy course that you learn in MBA, which helps you in the organization later on. It could be environmental laws, it could be management principles, it could be marketing principles. So CA course does not cover many important aspects which are crucial for a business. And therefore, if a chartered accountant has an MBA degree, it is all the more better. Though it does not mean that only a chartered accountant cannot become a CEO. I have seen many chartered accountants who have become CEOs. It's an upcoming trend because chartered accountants or the finance professionals are very good in understanding numbers, in analytics, and understand the really understand what's going on in the company, what are the right decisions for the company. So I won't say it's a must, but it's a very good to have.
Deepak bhai, do you have some questions? Deepak ji?
Just a sec. Before I ask my question, there is one question from Sunny Tanwar. And again, questions have started pouring in. Sunny's question is, what difference did you observe between Indian corporates and international / Western corporates, especially in terms of management, including the family-owned / managed conglomerates?
See, I will say I've been lucky to lead an organization where I am empowered. I can tell you where there's a clash between chairman and the CEO. Then the whole point of having CEO gets defeated. So the chairmans or the promoters of today need to learn that if they are having a professional CEO, then they need to leave the things to the professional CEO, and they should rather be involved in the strategy or big decisions and leave the rest of the operations to the CEO. At the same time, Indian organizations really need to pick up scale, speed. It needs to do research. It needs to have best of the HR policies. I can tell you that, we have been able to bring a very good blend of Indian values and at the same time, best of HR practices. So we have that family bonding and family culture in Cosmo, and at the same time, best of HR facilities to the employees so that they really love to come to the organization every day.
Okay. There is one more question from a young chartered accountant by the name of CA Kshitija Kankaria, and I believe she's into industry also. Her question is, what will be your guideline to a female CA to take these challenging roles, and how do they balance in work and personal life? As far as Kshitija is concerned, from her personal experience, she says that I had to quit my role as FM, as working 12 hours with kid was not possible. So what is your advice to her, Pankaj?
So first of all, I would say hats off to all the working women who manages their home, their kids, their family, as well as the office. It's not easy. We as males don't realize it. I really like to congratulate Kshitija on that she's able to manage both. I would say that the most critical time is when the child is still young. That's the most difficult time, and you really need to have a lot of support at home. If you have aspirations in your career, you will have to explain it to your family that you need to grow, and therefore you need support at home. And given that you're earning, you can very well manage that. So important is that you have enough support at home so that you can contribute to the office. At the same time, I could see that, those late hours is continuously reducing with technology. I'll share another very interesting experience that I had in one of my companies. In that company, the auditor, it was a top 4 firm. It used to take 4 to 5 months to audit. It was not a very big company. And I was amazed. So the first year I became finance director in the company, I asked the partner, look, I'm not going to give you more than 20 days to finish your audit. He said, impossible. I said, there's nothing called impossible. We have to take that as a target between you and us. And I can assure you there'll be 0 audit qualification. I said, what is your biggest challenge? He said, I cannot rely on internal controls of IT systems in your company. I said, take from me, the audit will not start unless you have confidence on IT systems. Your organization does the audit of global, why you would not rely on India? The first thing we made sure is that they audit the IT systems in detail, because once they have done it, it carries through years after year. We made sure that they get all the support globally to audit Indian IT systems, which they wanted, for whatever reasons, because in India, typically we end up doing far more audit than that is required by law. They did that for 20 days. They tried their best to fail on that, but I made sure that till the time IT systems are not qualified, audit do not start. Believe you me, that year we finished audit in 20 days. There are a lot of other experiences that I had from my Delphi and other organizations, where we always used to find opportunities to cut down the time required to process certain transactions. Even in Cosmo, I still keep telling my team, try and automate. You will be amazed with the kind of automation that we have done in Cosmo Films. We have tried to virtually automate anything and everything. I'm increasingly encouraging employees to not use Excel, ensure that everything is through system. There's no manual work. So I think there are two parts to it. One is have support at your family side, and at the same time, look for opportunities in the company that you work. How can you simplify your work? You will realize that once you take that goal, things that you were earlier taking 2 hours, maybe 6 months down the line, you may be able to do it in 10 minutes. That is a goal you should take.
Okay. Deepak bhai.
Yeah, I have 2 more questions. You can ask questions first, Gaurav.
नहीं, आप करिए, आप क्वेश्चन पूछे, अभी तो ऑडियंस की बारी है.
ओके. पंकज, एक जो सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज आज की डेट में चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स फील कर रहे हैं, खास करके जो मीडियम फर्म्स हैं, वो है टैलेंट का रिटेनमेंट. यू सी, टैलेंट बहुत जल्दी आता है, बहुत जल्दी चला जाता है. तो आपकी सब चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स, जो यंग चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स है या जो मीडियम साइज फर्म्स हैं, बीइंग ए मेंटोर, अगेन यू हैव बीन जस्ट एज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट मेंटोर्स इफ आई रिकॉल. तो आपकी क्या एडवाइस है कंपनी से या फर्म से या चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट से कि वो अपने एम्प्लॉइज को कैसे मेंटोर करें? व्हाट आर द रीजंस और हाउ डू दे आइडेंटिफाई व्हाट आर द रीजंस दैट पीपल आर लीविंग देम?
See, I can tell you, you should deal with your employees the way you want to be dealt yourself. I'm from a family where my entire family is into business and I'm the only one who's into professional life. At times I hear my parents saying that, यार ये तो employee है, पता नहीं अपने owner को कमा के देगा नहीं देगा. Whether, he will work as good as, we have to first have trust in people. Believe that everybody wants to do best in their life. And if they want to do best in their life, they want to do best for the organization. There could be exceptions here and there, but with training, you can change that. So important is that you treat them the way you want to be treated yourself. If you have the right set of humanly policies, you will be able to retain people. You must assess what is the market and pay them accordingly. You must make sure that they are given the right amount of benefits, but more than that, they really look for the respect. If you are able to give respect to your people, if you are able to take care of their needs, and if you treat them like a family member, I can tell you they can work for you throughout the life. What really employees, if you really see Maslow's law, it really works very well for the employees. Their first need is money. Their second need is the benefits. But at the top level is the ego. You have to satisfy the ego of the employee by giving them the respect, by treating them like a family. And the moment you start treating them the way you want to be treated yourself, I can tell you they will be there for a longer life. And I think the other thing is you should never stop hiring. The moment you get an opportunity to build up infrastructure, you should always do that. You should always invest in talent. And the moment you start becoming bigger, you will see the work will come on its own. You will also see that the talent will come on its own. Because everybody wants to work in bigger firms. And therefore, you should never stop hiring. I would say, I will strongly encourage you. Even in the bad years, share with your employees that, look, there's a bad year. We may have to pay less bonus. But I hope you are there with me. The moment you bring that emotional touch with your employees, I can tell you they will do. And not look for opportunities to cut. Like in COVID situation, I can tell you many organizations will look at cutting salaries of employees. May not be a good thing. I'll say if you can pay to the people till the time you can pay, you should pay. Unless you are making losses, that's a different story. But if you can pay to your employees, that is the time that they test you. That are you considering them as an important part of your family?
Very well said, Pankaj. Another question in my mind. You see a lot of chartered accountants are into finance fields, and probably they may not aspire to be a CEO, but I believe that most of them aspire to be CFO. So as a finance guy, as a finance professional, what is your advice to them?
So see, if you want to become CFO, very clearly, you have to become a business partner. Increasingly, the CEOs do not expect CFOs to be accountants or tax or internal controls. That is given. Like today, if you buy a product, you assume quality is given. If there's no quality, you would not even like to buy the product. So same way with the CFO, the knowledge about the taxation, the accounting, the costing is given. And CEOs feel that even if you are not strong on something, because you cannot be strong on every area, you will have the right members in your team to ensure that that help is there with them. The important is how the CFO can learn about the business, how it can help the business head and other functions to take the right decisions. Those are more critical. I can share you another very nice experience from my past life. I joined a company where finance was treated as if, as if it does not even exist, as if it was a waste shit somewhere, which is being thrown by somebody at the top bosses. And the CEO never used to respect the finance. Within 2 months of my joining, that CEO did not take even a single decision without consulting me. Because he realized that here is a CFO who is giving him advices on what is right, what is wrong with reasons. So CFO has to be involved in the business in every aspect of it. That definitely means a lot of work pressure for the CFO, because one side he has to manage his functional role, and at the same time the CFO has to manage the business responsibilities. But in today's world, CFO is, I would say, almost a deputy CEO who has to be very well involved in the business. And that will open the door for the CEO also, if the CFO takes very active interest in the business.
So I have another follow-up question here, Pankaj. You see, finance traditionally is treated as a cost center. So what should I do as a finance manager to convert that thinking from cost center to profit center?
By simply giving value add. I make sure that any department in Cosmo has a P&L budget, irrespective. Forget the finance. I make sure that every function in the company, whether it is HR, whether it is IT, they have profit goals, they have business goals. The moment the CFO is able to give the value add to the business, and I shared a lot of my experiences as in Delphi, where I could say that finance department was very instrumental in helping the company to turn around the operations. If you understand the business well, and if you are able to provide the value, and if you recall, I said that even in my EY days, one of our key goals was to add value to the client, and for which a very strong understanding of a business is a must. You need to go on the shop floor, or you need to meet the customers, you need to meet the suppliers, understand the business, and then give value back to the business. And it's not difficult. Once you start enjoying it, you will be so much into it that I can tell you can give so many different, and CFO always has different ties. CEO normally in the pressure of doing business, at times is ready to take more aggressive decisions, and here comes CFO, who's always ready to give a more balanced approach to CEO. Look, this is right, and maybe this is where you may do some more risk assessment.
Thank you, Pankaj. Gaurav, there is a question from Surbhi Monga. Would you like to take it up?
Yeah, so Pankaj, there is a question from Surbhi Monga. She's saying, or she's asking, what are your expectations from auditors as a CEO or CFO of the company in terms of value add. So as an CEO, what you look into the auditor, how auditor can add the value.
So see, first is the statutory obligations. We do expect auditors to give true and fair view. And then at the same time, make sure that for that true and fair view, you do it in the right way. So you do not underspend time, you do not overspend time. So ensuring that you spend the right amount of time. Gone are the days when auditors used to virtually harass the clients. These days, auditors have become very client friendly. Beyond this, what you expect is at a CEO level, first is you expect that there are no frauds happening in the company. There is no wrongdoing happening in the company. The third thing that you expect is the internal controls are strong. So please advise where systems and processes can be improved. But have a thorough discussion with the management before you come to a conclusion. So do not have your own conclusions. Make sure that you agree with the right business owners that look, if you do this, your business process can improve. And last but not the least, if they can help in, improving revenue, reducing cost, help save on tax, help save on anything else, that's always the best auditor to me.
Okay. Thanks, Pankaj bhai. Deepak ji, any other question we have?
Not right now. Thank you.
So, would you like to provide, your observation on this session, and then I would conclude.
So it's been always a pleasure to hear Pankaj. Not because that he's my friend, but I say that he's also one of my mentors, because I have been associated with Pankaj for so many years. And frankly speaking, he's also been instrumental in my practice, in my professional life, in my personal life. And I respect him a lot, not only as a friend, but as even though he's a little bit junior from in age, but still I treat him as a senior because he has a lot of wisdom, he has a lot of experiences, which probably I might not have. So from his today's session, what I can gather is that for all the participants, for all the chartered accountants, the key which I can understand from the whole scenario is that it is the hard work which is the key to your success. So never get shy, because I have seen the trend lately that in the name of family and professional balances, people are actually getting shy from doing hard work. So my suggestion, my request, or my advice to all of my fellow chartered accountants is that please do not give up on hard work. It is the truth of the life that hard work is the necessity as far as our profession is concerned.
Deepak, can I add something there?
Sure, please. Thank you.
On the digital side, I think hard work is one part. The digital life is really disturbing all of us. I could see so many people spending so many hours on Facebook, WhatsApp, and all those things. And this practice is particularly very prevalent in India. What I can recommend my friends is stay away from it. Make some principles around it that you would not see phone more than 2 times or 3 times or 4 times in a day. You would not, get into your Facebooks and LinkedIn accounts for so many times in a day. That itself is going to add a lot to your efficiencies.
देखिए, मुझे तो पूरे सेशन में एक ही बात समझ में आई. एक मूवी का डायलॉग है जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि ऑडियंस को क्या चाहिए या पब्लिक को क्या चाहिए, एंटरटेनमेंट एंटरटेनमेंट एंड एंटरटेनमेंट. तो पंकज जी को सुनने के बाद मुझे समझ में आया कि इनके पास 2 P नहीं है. इट इज नॉट ओनली पंकज पोद्दार, इट इज पैशनेट पंकज पोद्दार. सो passion and passion. So I feel the success which he has achieved at such a young age, it's probably because the passion he carries towards the finding solution, or passion he carries towards aiding the value, and passion to connect with everyone, passion to value the team with which he is working. So three things, and all three things with passion, I can see. Passion to value the team, passion to provide the solution, and passion to add the value. So for me, from now onwards, I will say it's PQ, passionate Pankaj Pardarsi. Thanks, Pankaj Bhai, for a wonderful session. It is, I will say, a lot of learnings we got from today's discussion. And certainly this Ruburu series, when people like you are coming on the channel and sharing your words of wisdom, it will going to be useful for a lot of youngsters and the guys who are there in industry or in practice. Once again, thanks a lot from complete FTAP team and all our participants. Thank you. Thank you, Deepak Bhai.
Thank you, Pankaj, and thank Gaurav and all the participants, not only on Zoom, but on YouTube also. Thank you.
Thank you.